With you about societal gender roles, especially in how they relate to masculinity. So I want to start off by giving a shout out to all the dudes in the audience. Thank you for coming. I just want to get a quick gauge of the masculinity in the room. So to do that, I need to hear a primal roar from everyone. So I'm going to set up a scenario. Just please listen very carefully. All right, men. You're back in the Australopithecine days. You're standing over a mammoth. You've got your spear with you. You're about to make the kill and bring all of this food back to your family and village. But your rival from the next tribe, Phil. I'm sorry if your name is Phil, but you know, that really just makes the situation worse. Your rival has the same name. So you see Phil over there, and he has his spear. He is about to steal this kill from you. So you need to use your primal roar to scare him away. Tell him, this is my mammoth, I've been tracking this for days. So, Phil, get out of here. Everyone have that image in their mind? Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. That sounded a little bit like you and Phil are fighting over a salad. So, can we just try that one more time? 1, 2, 3. Alright, that was a little bit better. I always like to just get a gauge of the masculinity in the room when I give presentations like this, because I think it's really important that I am the manliest man in the room, and based on that, I'm not concerned. So, most of my understanding and just general knowledge about this topic comes from my own experiences as a man in this society. I was born and raised in rural Pennsylvania, and during this time I was exposed to a lot of extreme opinions and personalities in regards to gender and what was appropriate for different genders to do. So during high school, you know, high school can be rough for everyone. I'm sure all of us in this room have experienced at least a little bit of bullying, and as you can see, I was definitely no exception. I really didn't experience that much bullying during high school, but the most intense experience bullying-wise happened my senior year. It was towards the end of the year, about a month or two before graduation. I went to a fairly small public school, and right before graduation, they would bring all the seniors into the auditorium and play a slideshow with every senior and their plans for post-graduation, whether that be college, workforce, military, etc. So, presentation started out normally. I'm sort of towards the beginning of the alphabet. So when my picture came up on the screen, someone in the audience yelled the word fag. Now, I don't tell you this to make you feel sorry for me or make you... but I just want to explore why this individual felt compelled and justified in yelling that word, and sort of giving you an understanding into why I am so interested in this topic. So this is a picture of me probably sophomore year. Things were better by senior year. But despite the long hair and just in general how insane I look, I don't think that many people would argue that I am a boy. I'm a man in this picture. This is a picture of me last spring. I participated in an event called One Shirt, One Dress, One Month. Participants were encouraged to wear one item of clothing for the entire month of April in order to raise awareness about sex trafficking and the sex slave industry. So this was a really interesting experience. It made me really uncomfortable. I learned a lot about how my gender plays a role in my everyday life. And I could probably do an entire presentation on this alone. And I'm really excited because it's actually right around the corner, and you guys should all do it. But I want to point out the fact that despite the fact that I'm wearing a dress, and despite the fact that I wore a dress for the entire month of April, that does not change the fact that I am a man. As long as I say I'm a man, then I'm a man. The clothes that I choose to wear, the people that I choose to kiss, the fact that I like One Direction and Taylor Swift, those things don't change the fact that I'm a man. So now I'm going to go into a quick discussion about some different terms that I'm going to be using a lot throughout the presentation, just because I want us all to be on the same page in regards to the difference between gender, sex, and sexuality. So biological sex is something that we are born with. It is in reference to our genitalia, and biological sex is something that remains stagnant throughout most of our lives, unless an individual gets surgery to change that, which many people do opt to do. Gender while biological sex is focused on our physical bodies, gender is more related to our behavioral and mental selves. Gender is not something that we are born with. Gender is something that develops as we age, and it can change over time. Now, most people in our society feel as if their biological sex and their gender are aligned. Meaning, if an individual is born with a penis, then that individual feels as if their gender is male. If an individual feels as if their gender and sex do not align, that doesn't mean they're abnormal or weird, they're simply in the minority. And there are certainly plenty of people where that is the case. Sexuality refers to the types of people that we are attracted to. Now, sexuality draws heavily from our sex and from our gender, but it is not dependent upon it. And sexuality, like gender, can change over time. So, quick recap. My sex is male because I was born with a penis. My gender is male because I say that it is, and my sexuality is homosexual because I am attracted to men. Everybody understand? Great. Okay. So now I'm going to go into some of those societal concepts that I mentioned earlier. So this is a picture of sort of the way that biological sex has historically been understood in our culture and many cultures throughout the world. You're either born with a penis and you're a man, or you're born with a vagina and you're a woman. And that certainly is the case for a lot of people, but that's not the tell-all situation. That's not how people actually work. That's not how nature works. It's actually something a lot more along the lines of this. No. It's actually something a lot more along the lines of this. There are people born here. There are people born here, and there are people born everywhere in between. Nature has no distinction for where male ends and where female begins. Intersex is a term that refers to people who are born without stereotypically male or female genitalia. Now, intersex is completely natural, and it happens in many species, including many mammals. It's not some weird reptilian thing, and in humans. There are individuals who are born with both ovaries and testes. There are individuals who are born with clitorises that are so large that they protrude from the body and they're mistaken for penises at birth. Now, it's difficult for medical professionals to place an exact number on how many intersex individuals there are in the world, because intersex is such a broad range of biological sexes, and many forms are so subtle, meaning that an individual can be born, live an entire life, and die not knowing that they're intersex. But medical professionals estimate approximately 1 in every 1,500 to 2,000 people is born intersex. So what exactly are the implications of this? If biological sex is a continuum, if there are more than two sexes, if there's actually a plethora of them, then there's no real basis to assume that there are only two genders. And if that's the case, then gender must be a continuum as well. Our gender can exist apart from our genitalia. So gender is a continuum, and please remember that because that's very important. Gender is a continuum. So now let's talk about men. I hope this is the right slide. It's not the right slide. Wait. No, that is the right slide. Can you go back one? Sorry. What is a man? Or I think a better question would be, what exactly does our society think a man is? Shout out some words that you would associate with masculinity right now.
Strong. Muscle.
Chuck Norris.
Okay, any more?
Facial hair.
Okay, all right, so I heard muscles, Chuck Norris, decisive. When I did a Google search for masculinity, some of the synonyms that came up were powerful, aggressive, emotionless, logical, virile. When I did a Google image search, these are the first 4 pictures that came up. So, now I definitely didn't mind researching this part of the presentation. But I think that we can all agree that there are not very many men who can reach this standard. It's just a weird standard to hold men to. Like, very few men are that hairless. And so, all these individuals are men. All of these individuals are men, but it doesn't make sense to hold them all to the same standard. I highly doubt that Michael Cera's body has the capacity to ever look anything like this. And I'm right there with him. When I was in middle school, this is what I saw, and this was what was sort of given off in our society as like the ideal man, and this is what I wanted to look like. I thought when I grow up, and when I get in high school, I'm gonna look just like this, and I'm gonna be popular, and I'm gonna be good at sports, and I'm gonna have a girlfriend. And that was just setting me up for failure, because there's just no way that that's happening. And that's okay. I've definitely come to accept my body, and I love my body, and I don't need to look like this to be happy. All these individuals are men, but that doesn't mean that we should hold them to the same standards, because they're all so different. You know, The Rock and Stephen Hawking are both men, but comparing them is ridiculous, because The Rock does not have the intellect to perform such complex research into theoretical physics. And Stephen Hawking doesn't have the physicality to act in such an impressive array of award-winning and critically acclaimed films.